Okay, welcome back to the podcast with me, Pete Igis. I've got to start with an apology that the last podcast was a day late. For some reason, I'd recorded and edited the podcast, loaded it into the hosting website. It looks like I uploaded the incorrect podcast, so it was the one with Mark and Will, and I must have uploaded the old one. So somebody, or I had a bunch of people actually suddenly messaging me saying, am I having deja vu? So please accept my apologies for that. I got it out the next day, so I hope that was okay. It's such an amazing subject as well that they're talking about, and you probably got that sense, and I used the word eureka when I'd recorded it, that it was extraordinary to see how these people are looking at what we're doing and redefining it. And I think that's one of the lovely things about this podcast, that we get to share these things with people, these smart people who feel like we do about fishing and want to share what they've learned with us, which I think we're all the better for that. The Tweed Salmon Festival's looming large, so I'm going to be up there. I will be in the Yeti bar booth, and I'm going to be podcasting there. So if you're coming along to the show, come and say hello. I know I met some listeners last year, and I recorded there last year as well. So I'll be doing the same again. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be a drive up. So I'm staying in Bristol overnight and then driving up to Kelso the next morning. So that should be fun. So yeah, it'll be great to meet you. On this one, I've headed up to... Well, I've been in Hampshire, headed my way back down, dropped off in Wiltshire, and I'm setting up a rod to go fishing. And I thought it'd be nice to share how I get on and what sort of day I have. So I hope you enjoy this episode. I had to head to Hampshire on non-fishing related business this morning. Managed to get there in usual peak time a bit early, but the gentleman I was meeting was early too, so I got everything concluded, and fortunately enough I had my fishing gear in the car as well. So I've stopped off in Wiltshire, fish a stream here, see if I can find a fish or two. I've got into my waders, I've walked down, it's lovely. The sheep are starting to lamb, so I think I've just seen a sheep or a lamb take its very first few steps as well, which is kind of cool. Set up. I've not put a fly on as yet. The river looks as though it has a minuscule amount of push to it, not a great deal at the moment. I'm sort of trying to make up my mind whether to go with a nymph or a dry or a combination. I'm not 100% sure. Driving up this morning, I left really early. I left Devon about 5:45 this morning, and the weather was a little bit miserable on the way up. And I sort of thought, sorry, I might just keep driving. But of course, if you're passing a river, it's really hard not to get in it and make a few casts. So that's my plan for this session. I'm probably going to fish 3-4 hours, see how I get on. I picked up an okay petrol station sandwich as well. So I've parked my car that I'm about halfway so that I can stop off and have something to eat, depending on how the fishing is. While I've been talking to you, I've seen 3 large dark olive come off. I think the talk has been about Granham here as well, so I'm keeping half an eye out for those at the moment. But my gut is to just see how I get on, possibly with a nymph to start with, and then work out from there. So I've not got in. I can see, the wonderful thing I always say about chalk streams is that you can see the bottom and you can see things, and I'm hoping that I might be able to see a trout as well. That's my hope. We can wade on the beat here, so I'm going to be wading up through to see how I get on. Yeah, I've just seen another large dark as well. Oh, there's one Granham as well. So there is some stuff sort of knocking around. So I want to be flexible. I've got a new rod that Warren built me. I did a post about it actually. It's a Fortitude rod, and it's a 9.5 foot 2-weight. So I've fished that recently, and my plan is to give that a go. And I fished it on Dartmoor on my birthday, actually, and caught fish on my birthday. It's a lovely story that Warren sent it to me, and we were heading off, And I found out it was a birthday surprise that Emma had organised, and we were heading off. Wasn't 100% sure where we're going, but then she told me. So on the other side of the village, I saw the post lady, and Warren had told me that he had posted the rod and it should be arriving on that day. And lo and behold, she had it. And so I could pop that in the car and fish it on a little stream in Dartmoor and caught some trout on it, which was really, really cool. I've been playing with a few lines, and I think I've found the right combination. That's one of the fun things about a new rod, is trying to find out what sings for you. And these things are all a personal preference, of course, but for me, I think I've found the winning combination. So we'll see how that copes. We'll see how that gets on with a nymph as well. And I remember fishing this very river on a podcast I did with Paul Proctor, and he was fishing a guideline. I think it was a 9'9" 2-weight, and cast that. I've seen another Granham as well, with great skill. So I'm going to see if I can replicate that in some small way as well. So looking forward to that. I'm going to see if I see a fish rise. But yeah, my gut is probably to try with the nymph first. I'm still, like I say, getting acquainted with this rod and seeing how it casts, how it fishes. But my first impressions were really good. Warren found it was from Fortitude rods. It's a rod blank from their range. I think it's from the Tanua range. I'm not 100% sure. But when Warren said to me, I found a 9.5 foot 2-weight, you're interested? Of course I am. And I've got that lovely lineup of 9.5 foot rods that I love to fish. It just feels nice to me to fish that length of rod. So now I've got a 2-weight, a 3-weight, a 4-weight, and a 5-weight as well. So I think I've got just about every base covered for every situation. So I'm going to give this one a go today and see how things play out. Still nothing, as I said, it's a spluttering, there's a midge here as well. It's just odds and sods at the moment. So I guess I'm sort of reinforcing my hand with the nymph just to kick off with. Probably doesn't sound like I'm standing in the river, and I think one I did recently you could hear the roar of the river when I was fishing with Warren, but that's the thing about chalk streams, they're generally pretty even flow. But I set up a nymph, must be about 3.5 mil, sort of nymphy sort of thing, and put an yarn indicator about 3.5 feet up from there. I just thought it might be fun to fish that way. I didn't want to year a nymph, so I just felt like I wanted to see how the rod coped with a heavier fly, and it seems to be really well. I've had a really small fish, a trout of about 5 inches or so. So there's no stocked fish here as well, I should say. They're all wild. So everything is going to be wild. I did see a smaller one as I got in, and one of the things when I can see, if I know it's a really small fish, I want to give him a chance. So I don't bother fishing for him. But this guy I couldn't see. I'm sort of standing. What they do here is not make it manicured. So there's trees overhanging. There's plenty of places I'm probably going to get my fly stuck in. But sometimes it's a little harder to spot, and the cloud's gone in. I'm praying I don't have to run back from a rain jacket shortly, but cloud's gone in, so it's a little harder to spot fish. But if I'd have seen him there and realised his size, I'd have probably left him alone. But we're up and running, so I'm pleased about that. Took my time setting up. And that's the nice thing. You can sort of formulate an idea rather than, I think it's easy to do what you did last time. But of course, every day's different. And as spring is starting to have its effect, the things and conditions will change a little bit. I'm pleased I stuck with the nymph. Since I've got in, I've not seen any bugs on the water, so I'm happy about that. I'm keeping half an eye on the softer water. I think if a fish is going to rise, that's probably where it's going to be. And that's where I caught that trout as well, on the soft seam of the bubble line that's running down through this pool at the moment. So I think I'm forming a strategy. I'll, of course, work that faster water as well, just in case, because I've got a nymph that I'm hoping will get down. I'm about knee deep, I would say, in the water at the moment. I know it gets a little bit shallower as I work up, and then there's a deeper pool, but I'm going to keep talking you through it. I've only moved a short distance upstream, and there's a tree, sort of, I guess over the years it must have come down, but it's been trimmed back, and it comes out from the bank probably 10, 15 feet. And what it does is channel the flow right down the middle of the river. Behind that, though, as we come downstream from that stump that's there, there's some soft water, and of course it's been scoured out a little bit as well. And I flipped my nymph into there and had a trout of about 9 inches, I would say, something like that. Beautiful little one. I've just seen, funnily enough, just away from there, the minuscule little rise, and further upstream as well. Minuscule, I say minuscule, not because it might be one of those big leviathans, but that was a small trout just sort of pecking at the surface there. So that's an encouraging sign. I'm going to work this hole a little bit more, see if anyone else is about there, and then work up through, and then I'm going to cross the river again just a little bit because the flow goes against the bank as I look upstream on the right there. So I'm going to work the soft edge of that once I've been through here a little bit more. But it's looking great. The water's pretty clear. I wouldn't call it crystal clear, but it's pretty damn clear. So that's been great fun. Enjoying it so much so far. Just taking my time, talking to myself, enjoying it. I'm not fishing it hugely methodically. I think I'm just using my watercraft to figure out where I think the fish have been. And as you can probably gather from this, and I think on the previous podcast we did on the river as well, the softer water earlier in the year is where I think I'm going to be finding fish. And then as things warm up, they probably do move into those faster channels and bubble lines. But I think they're on the seams, on the edges of those right now. So I'll keep working that right now. But I'm encouraged. There's a bit of water where that tree that's down that I was talking about, a little bit flows over the top of it, and then there's a bough that's been tied back, and there's a minuscule slow bubble line there, and that's where I saw that tiny little fish rise. So yeah, encouraged by that. It's lovely to see. Quite a long pool, this one. As I said earlier, that the flow goes against the right bank or river left as you look downstream, and the far bank is a little bit deeper. It's not super deep. It doesn't look super deep to me. I know the pool 2 up is quite deep, but nice even flow there. And again, I've worked that softer edge. Had another trout, which I'm really pleased about. I've got to confess that I've caught some grayling as well, and if I've caught one, I try and move a little bit so I'm out the way. I've apologised to them and just flipped the nymph off, and off they've gone. But I'm not fishing big distance. I've got some fly line out. My leader's about 12 foot long, and then I've got about 2 foot of tippet on that. And I'm probably fishing with 4 or 5 feet of line out of the water. And the nice thing about a 9.5 foot rod is that I can keep that line, as much line off the water as possible, to get a really, really nice drift through this water. It looks right to me. I've been talking about the softer seam, and that's what I pick that fish up. I do cover that faster water just in case, you never know, but there is a pattern forming here. But that longer rod is really advantageous in these situations. I fish them most of the time, so I'm kind of used to them. I think I've often said on here that I prefer these over a 10, only personally, 10-foot rod, because I guess I'm from a background of fishing shorter rods, and they just feel nicer to cast as well. I think Paul had mentioned about swing weight as well, and I think he's dead right about that. It just feels nice in the hand to cast and to fish with. The leader I'm fishing, I should mention as well, is that it's a trout hunter leader, and I really like them. They turn over beautifully. They're really, really nice. I got mine from Allen Green last time I was up there. I bought a bunch of them, and it's nice me saying these things, but Don Stasica put me onto these, and if Don says something's good, then that's worth listening to. And I did listen and bought some, and can only endorse that. So I think they're really, really great. And I've seen another tiny fish rise again in some soft water. It might be a back eddy. There's plenty of woody debris in here, and it's holding back the flow in a bit. Might be a back eddy. It was a tiny fish, a plipper really. You can tell it was a pretty small one, but again, I'm encouraged. So we'll wait and see. You never know what might happen. But the trout was beautiful as well. I mustn't forget that beautifully I hate this term, but buttery coloured. But I love the white piping on the fins. Each fish, I always try and admire before it goes back. And sometimes I take a picture, not always, but sometimes I'll take a picture. So I'm pretty much at the head of the pool now, and there's again some woody debris forcing the flow down the middle. And where the woody debris, it's on my side, on river right, that it's scoured out again a deeper pot, softer water, and you can guess that again I found a trout, slightly, probably my biggest one so far, about 9 inches, might be a tiny bit bigger if I pushed it a little bit, but I had a smaller one as well. So there is a plan. It seems to be working okay as well. And I was sort of preparing, right, do I need to go a little bit deeper? But I think I'm getting absolutely fine. You know, I'm catching fish. So I sort of analyse absolutely everything. Do I need to change the fly? No, of course, because it's working. There's a really interesting thing Paul Gaskell said on one of the pods years back as well, that the way that you find out if a fly is working is to take it off. And that's some great advice. As I said, mine's sort of a buggy, nymphy type thing, you know, it's nothing special, but it was the weight that interests me, and it's interested the fish as well. So from that point of view, but yeah, really pretty. I had a few drops of rain, that stopped. No real bugs on the water at the moment either, so pretty quiet. So I feel vindicated sticking with the nymph for the time being until I see signs of anything a little bit further. Continued working up the river. I've picked up the odd trout here and there. Why is it, here's a confession, why is it you always get your fly hung up in the deepest part of a pool so that you can't get across? I tried my utmost, stayed dry thankfully, so a result from that point of view. Interestingly, right on the very edge of a seam of water, I had something come up and splash at the white yarn indicator I had. I almost buckled and thought to myself, right, okay, perhaps we should think about a dry. But it wasn't really enough for me to say, right, yeah, look, there's something going on here. Let's give it a go. What I'm going to do is I'm on a nice corner pool as I look upstream. Bends to the left as I look up. And on that corner there's a slightly deeper pot, and I'm hoping I might find a fish there. Then I'm going to work myself up a little bit further. The river bends to the right, and it's a bit shallower. And it may be that I can bring a fish up in there. That's my plan. I'm going to try that. I'm going to put a bigger dry on again. Not much hatching. There's not a huge amount going around, but there's a few granum about. Not big numbers, but there's a few about. So that's in my mind as well. So I'm going to give it a go, just to say that I tried and see. But this deeper part has always been okay to me. It's lovely here, actually, that the trees are, there's plenty of shade for the fish, which I really like. And I guess that they will sit out a little bit further sometimes because they feel a little bit more secure as well. So it's lovely to see some wonderful river keeping going on here. So, yeah, that's all pretty cool. So, yeah, I'm going to work up. I'm sort of probably 40-50 feet downstream of that little corner I'm talking about. Again, the run goes against my far bank there, and there's a softer area of about 8 or 9 feet away from the fast, and then it shallows up. I'm just working that. I've got I found a replacement nymph of exactly what I was using before, so I thought, well, there's no reason to change. So we'll give that a go, and then, yeah, I might, as the river gets a little bit shallower, might try a dry and see what we can do. Starting to panic that the corner pool wasn't going to deliver. And it did in the end. There was, I suppose it's a bit of experience more than anything else, but the run into it, there was just a slack bit of water in between the run into the head of the pool. I don't know how I spotted it. I suppose it's just, like I say, it's experience, being an old timer and all that sort of stuff. But popped the fly in there, and I had 3 trout, all peas in a pod. That little seam there was probably 10, 12 feet long, just ran in between the faster water on the way in. So I count myself lucky. And it was funny, on the last fish that I released, I just said thank you to it. And it put me in mind of it wasn't ever on TV, I don't think, but it was on, you could buy videos, and I bought a bunch of them. I've still got some of them. It was a husband and wife team called Jim and Kelly Watt. And it was really interesting what they were doing, that they'd go round America, they're an American couple, and they would fish waters. They'd have a guide with them, so they'd promote the guide. Then they'd tell you where they stayed, and all of these sorts of deals. And if you were heading to, I know I've got one on the Big Horn in Montana, and it told you where to stay. It told you the fly patterns that worked really well. It was a really interesting precursor of what is really developed into YouTube and all these sorts of things. And I think you could buy them on subscription as well, if I remember. I know they came over to Ireland once as well and fished with Andrew Ryan. I've got that one, and I've got 3 or 4. I think they went to Alaska, but they were really, really nice little videos, nicely put together. They promoted some tackle, they did all of those sorts of things. I know there's a deal in that, but it was really cool way of doing it and an interesting way of doing it. But Kelly, whenever she used to release a fish, always said thank you to it, and that's what popped that into my mind. So, and then I've walked upstream a little bit, and the water, as I've said, is slower and flatter here. It's probably 60-70 feet long. And I promised you that I'd put on a dry, and I put on a dry. And it was one of Yestin's. It's from the pheasant tail range. It's sort of a caddis pattern with a trailing shuck, and I'm always a sucker for a trailing shuck. I think it's a really natural trigger point that says to a fish, come eat me, I'm trying to wriggle through. And I'm sure many of you know about Granum. There's a few around. I wouldn't call this a hatch by any means, but it reminds me that, you know, the Granum emerged very, very quickly, and I thought, well, perhaps they'll think this is one that's got trapped, and we'll see. And I probably made 3 or 4 casts, and I hooked fish that thrashed around a bit and came off. I think it's similar sort of size I've been catching. Then I had another one come have a look at the fly. It was probably my fault that it didn't set more than anything else. So it's kind of nice when you do these things that you back yourself a little bit and say, well, look, these aren't the right conditions, but this might be the right sort of water that a fish might come and have a look at the right sort of dry. So I'm really enjoying this. I've just started in the pool, but wanted to share that with you, and I wanted to remember about Jim and Kelly Watt. And I think I emailed him years back about something or other. I can't remember what it was. It might have been about getting him on the podcast. I can't remember now. It's a long time ago. But I said how much I enjoyed the videos, and I'd bought a bunch of them, and it was nice. He was really pleased and genuinely pleased to hear I'd enjoyed them as well. So all those things are nice, and it is a little community, and saying nice things to people in the community or in a wider sphere of life as well is no bad thing. So yeah, I'm going to keep doing that. But yeah, this has been really cool. The weather has changed. I'm just shaded a bit here, and I wonder if that's why the fish may look a little bit more as well. But there is a bit more of a downstream wind, and as I tuck myself into the bank, I'm sort of river right bank, left side if you're looking upstream. Sorry for all this confusion. But the water isn't that deep. I would say it's just under knee deep. So I think there's enough, and it's a lovely even flow pretty much across the river here. The river is probably 25, 30 feet across, something like that. So I've rested this fish that I brought up. I'm not expecting him to come again, but I'm going to give him a go. And I've probably got 200 or 300 yards more. Then I'm probably done, and I'm probably going to drive home. I might have if you know the A303, there's a roadside diner there, and they've done this big bypass there, and I worry that people don't go in there, so I thought I might go in there and have a cup of coffee, and perhaps I might even have a burger as well. So we'll see. I want to support them and hope they're still fighting the rear guard, so I'll do that. But I'm going to report on some more as and when it happens. But yeah, it's just lovely. Those little moments like that make me pleased that I took a little detour out of my journey to drop in here. That's what I so love about this. You think you're Billy Big Biscuits because you've brought a couple of fish up, and then of course the river proceeds to hand your ass to you on a plate. It's a bit deeper here, so I'm thigh deep and a bit more. That may have something to do with it. There's a tree as I look upstream that sort of leant over a bit, and a fair few of its branches are down in the water and it's holding the flow a little bit. And I think, just as I was getting the mic out to speak with you, I think I saw a fish rise up in there. Then the river opens out a bit. And I think this was the perfect spot because of the water depth, because of the shelter as well. I think we were sheltered from the wind for a bit and trout felt pretty happy about it. So I think that was the reason. It opens a little bit as I walk up towards the tree I've just been describing. So I'm going to give that a go. And then I don't have a lot further to go from there. I think that's probably going to be enough for me. Just having a couple of fish come up and look at the dry has been awesome fun, and I've been lucky to catch a few today as well. So I'm really happy. I think the days for me, I'm changing as I get older. You know, I could fish here all day if I wanted to, but I don't feel like I need to. It's almost like topping up, and the magazine, we're ahead of schedule on that, so that's gone off now, and I thought, I'll treat myself to a few hours as I was passing, and I'm really pleased to have it. It has been enough just to top me up, and yeah, just love it. And then perhaps over the weekend I might go and have a look down in Devon, see if the river's dropped back a little bit, see if I can find my first river tour fish on a dry. Still doesn't feel as though it's going to be right just yet, but we'll see. It'll probably be just Monty and I. Monty, my dog, just has passed 10 now. So he was 10 just yesterday. And he's been with me on so many fishing trips, so many adventures. His legs are a little stiffer now. He's not as, when I see him get up, it makes me a little bit sad. I think there's still plenty of life in him yet, and I'm hoping that we'll get plenty of seasons together still. But you're wary of these things, and standing in the water now, I'm thinking, wow, you got no waders on he wades in there. So what I've been trying to do early season as well is keep him out of the water as much as I can, that colder water. So, but that might be the plan, but I'll let you know if any more happens up here. As I said, seeing that fish rise, and that's a flatter bit, as I said, where that tree's coming across has sheltered there. There's a little bubble line I can see as well. So I'm going to work that. I've been fishing the water because the fish aren't exactly topping and tailing all over the place here. It's not a fish soup situation. So I've been fishing the water. I've kept my line pretty fixed. Made sure my fly is fishing nice and high in the water as well. Been paying attention to that. Keeping my line fixed and then making incremental changes, stepping up the pool if I need to, once I feel I've covered where I need to cover, and going from there. So it's lovely. It sort of feels like a little bit of a limber up for what is to come this year as well. And very often, I don't know if you're the same, that I stand here and imagine, wow, a month's time this could be amazing. Month's time it could almost be mayfly as well. And I think they get a good hawthorn hatch as well. I haven't heard stories of those just as yet. I don't know. I don't think I have anyway. But a few granum knocking around. But yeah, it'll be mayfly soon, and everything else that comes with it. And yeah, just standing here right now may be a little bit different. Kind of thinking as well about wet wading a little bit more this year, and I've seen there's some sort of legging sort of stuff that you can buy. I don't know how far I'm going to buy into this, and like I say, standing thigh deep, I don't know, without waders I'll enjoy that as much, but I think that's a trend that's starting to happen a little bit more, and I'd like to try and embrace it if I can. It may be when I go to the beach and fish for mullet that I may fish that way then and try it and see how I get on and go from there. But yeah, I sort of, again, imagining warmer days, and I've got, a fleece top on, a couple of underlayer levels and thick leggings. I can feel how cold the water is right now, but that's going to change soon, I'm sure. It's a small bush, I'm looking at it now. It's probably 6-7 feet high. Just pokes out again a little bit and holds a bit of flow. Flipped my fly in, and a little trout of about 8 inches came and ate the fly, which I'm absolutely thrilled about. I've been talking a lot about those moments where you say, do you know what, that was enough, I'm going to snip off and go home. But I've got to be honest that I probably went up another 50, 60, 70 feet. It's almost the top of the beat, actually. There's a bridge there. It's almost the top of the beat. I've talked about it on podcasts actually, where a friend of mine was fishing dry dropper, and I stood on the bridge watching the fish eat the nymph and it not register on the dry. So I always remember that. And these other things, it's really funny, isn't it? That I think when you're doing something you love and are passionate about, and it's relaxing, that you clear your mind and you download all sorts of stuff. And fishing up through here brought back memories, as I talked about earlier. And I remember fishing this with my friend Nick Hart, and I think it was his 30th birthday, and he was having a surprise party, and I was supposed to get him back, and I couldn't get him off the river because the fishing was so good. But yeah, we caught a bunch of fish along here. I've done all right today. It's been one of those really, really good days, a real bonus day that I've enjoyed immensely. I'm just jumping out of the river now while I'm talking to you, and I've not snipped my fly off, which is interesting. That's unusual for me. Usually when I get out the river, that's it, fly off. But I'm going to go back to the other bridge nearby where I had lunch and have a look. And if I see a fish rise, that may give me another hour of fishing. But I'll keep you informed. But my gut is that's probably not it. But the wind's eased and it's close. You know, if I was salmon fishing, man, this would be good conditions. I'd be thinking, yep, this is it. And it's that feel, overcast. Winds drop, the birds are singing like mad. It's close. Yeah, it feels right. So I'm sort of almost not wanting it to slip through my fingers just yet. And all I want really is a sign, a validation to say, right, okay, Pete, yeah, I think you should have another go. But I'm going to walk down again. It's towards where the car's parked. So the car's parked right by the bridge. So if it is there and there's nobody at home, then I probably will snip off. But you never know. I'm so enjoying myself and having a really, really lovely time. It's quite unusual, actually. I've not fished alone a great deal of late, and I'm really enjoying doing it. And I don't feel in any rush. I don't when I'm fishing with friends, but you fish in a completely different way, and it's just fun. It's just really, really good fun. Walk downstream a little ways just to see if anyone's home. I noticed that obviously where I was fishing was there's a kink in that river, and I think it's just shaded a little bit cooler here. The wind you can feel a little bit more, and I liked because it was slightly shallower water, so I always felt there was a bit of a chance somebody would come up. But I think I'm going to call it. I'm going to head back down to Devon. As I said, it's got me excited about fishing at home as well. So if we get some warm weather, if that wind would drop, that's what I would love. If that wind would drop a little bit, then I think we might be game on. But yeah, maybe in the next day or two that I have a look at the Tor, see if anyone's rising there yet, and see what we can come up with. But I hope you've enjoyed this. This is an impromptu podcast that I wasn't planning on doing, actually, and I thought, it might be quite interesting just to see what happens. And I've just had to walk back to the bridge just in case while I'm talking to you, just to see if I can see anything. But I've enjoyed doing it, and I've enjoyed just stream of consciousness, I guess, is what these sorts of podcasts are, the things that pop into your mind. But like I say, I think it's the mindfulness of it all that you just suddenly, and we say it all the time, but it's when you're experiencing it in the moment that you suddenly realise, oh, that's a big old grayling down there. Yeah, that's a big grayling actually. I can just see him finning across the pool now. It's a really nice size fish. And yeah, these moments sort of make you realise what it does do for you, how it makes you feel, and what you're experiencing at that moment. So I hope you're able to get out fishing soon. I'm recording this on a Thursday, and this will be released on a Thursday, of course, as well. So I hope that you'll be fishing very, very soon, perhaps at the weekend. I hope your fishing's good. Always on my socials as well, people often tag me in stories and things like that. I'll always share them. I love seeing your stories as well on my own Instagram. Go search it out, and I'll always share them. I get thrilled. I can't stop watching this grayling. I'm thrilled to see how you're feeling about fishing, what it means to you, and those moments to share. So yeah, I'm always happy to share them if you feel it's of any value. So yeah, just tag me along and I'll do that. Looking forward to my drive home. Going to enjoy that. As I said, I may stop off and have something to eat. We'll see. But this has been another episode of the podcast. I really hope you've enjoyed this one. There'll be plenty more coming very, very soon. Thanks so much for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Fly Culture podcast, brought to you in association with the Voice of Game Angling, Trout and Salmon, where Pete is the editor.